Hello everyone, I'm Lindsay Thompson from CBT with Lindsay. I am a pathways coach for South of Scotland Enterprise, and today I'd like to talk to you about overwhelm to control, how to have that business mindset, how to take control of how you're thinking and how to protect your energy. Starting a business takes energy, vision and courage, but also places a huge demand on your mind, because when you're building something, you're not just doing the work, you're carrying the thinking behind the work. So you're making decisions, managing uncertainty, switching roles constantly, you're solving problems and you're holding responsibility, and at the same time trying to stay focused while everything else feels really important. And that is where many startup businesses or founders get caught out. Not because they're not capable, but because they stay in a state of mental loop for too long. And that can create overwhelm. So what is overwhelm? Overwhelm is that feeling of having more going on in your mind and your body or your nervous system that you can actually comfortably process. It's when everything starts to feel just too much, too noisy, too urgent, and too hard to organise. It's not always about the amount you've got on, it's often about the impact, that pressure that's having on your brain and your body. Because when we're under sustained stress, the brain becomes more threat sensitive. It starts scanning for problems more quickly and it focuses on urgency. You'll know that feeling, and it kind of pulls us into a reaction rather than, being able to think clearly. And that's why overwhelm can make everything just feel so important all at once. It can be an awful lot. It can feel like way too much. So sometimes in business, overwhelm doesn't always look all that dramatic. It can look like starting lots of things and just not being able to finish any of them, staring at your laptop but not being able to focus, snapping at people more easily, doubting yourself, second guessing yourself, and not being able to make that decision or even avoiding decisions. Unfortunately, I do this. I constantly check emails or messages, and sometimes just feeling busy all day, but not really getting anything done, or reaching the end of the day absolutely exhausted, but unsure of what you've actually achieved in that day. That is overwhelm. And very often it can be a nervous system response. Your body can go into the sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight and freeze response. And your system's asking things like, what am I missing? What needs attention? Is this safe? Can I keep up? So ask all these urgent questions. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It often means that your system, you're just overloaded. And this really matters because your brain can't think clearly, it can't prioritise well, and it can't make good decisions when it feels under threat. You can imagine if you're running away from a tiger, you're not exactly going to be able to write down a paragraph of what you're thinking about. So a stressed brain is not your best strategic brain. So it's important. How do we notice overwhelm in business? So usually it shows up in a few key ways. I'm going to discuss these four with you. It's the mind, the body, behaviour and emotion. So first of all, the mind. What does that look like if you've got overwhelm? Racing thoughts, indecision, difficult concentrating on things. I don't know how many times I've been forgetful. You can forget things, overthinking and poor prioritising, and it just feels like everything is urgent. So second, the body. You probably notice this if you're feeling overwhelmed, what happens in your body. You've got tension. Do you ever notice yourself shallow breathing, not breathing properly, not deeply enough? Headaches, that's a common one. Tiredness, really tired, poor sleep. Sometimes you can feel like you've got a tight chest, and often you just feel wired and exhausted. So third one I want to talk about is behaviour. What you'll start to notice, you procrastinate more. You might find yourself overworking or avoiding tasks, doom scrolling on your phone. Quite often that's a very common cause of overwhelm. Constantly checking things. Again, saying yes to too much, doing lots, but actually without real direction. And fourthly, emotionally. So noticing these symptoms of overwhelms through your emotions, like you can feel more irritable, self-doubt, frustration, and quite often you can feel really tearful or flat, just like nothing's going right for you, feeling like even small things are too much. So these are the symptoms that you can start to notice overwhelm. So overwhelm is not just a time management issue, it's really a whole body experience. And one of the reasons it gets missed is because many startup or founders keep functioning while we're overwhelmed. You know, they're still replying, they're still posting, you're actually still solving these issues and still showing up. But underneath it all, your system is overloaded. And that's why we need to look at the tools that don't just help us do more, but help us come back into control. An excellent tool, the first one, is the brain dump. That's a really good one. I use that often. I just write down everything that's in my head, because when everything is circling in your head, it feels equally urgent. But once it's on paper, then you can start to sort it. You can feel so much better. So a brain dump, ask yourself questions like, what is urgent? What is important? And what is not mine to carry today? What worry are you carrying? What is actually not your worry that you've got no control over? So that simple act of doing the brain dump and writing everything down reduces mental clutter, and it tells the brain it doesn't actually have to hold everything all together at once. Another useful tool is asking, what is your one priority today? Not 10 things, just one. This gives you funnel, focus, and allows your body to relax into that one task that you need to do. Because overwhelm grows when everything feels open. It's like having an open loop in your brain, and your brain doesn't like unfinished business. But control grows when we create focus. So having one thing to focus on is much better, obviously, than having 10 things to focus on. So we could ask ourselves, what is the one thing that's really urgent and will move the business forward today? That question actually protects your energy and momentum. Another great tool, a really important one, is called the capacity check. So before saying yes, before adding any more in or pushing through, ask yourself, actually, do I have the mental, emotional or physical capacity for this today? So be real. Not, can I force myself? Not, could I squeeze this in? But do I genuinely have the capacity for this? That question is so powerful because so many people are used to overriding themselves, and that is so often where burnout begins. Not from one big moment, but from lots of small moments of ignoring what your body is actually telling you. And this is where the nervous system becomes really important. So when your breathing is shallow and your shoulders are tight, your jaw's clenched, your mind's racing, you can't switch off, your body is telling you that you're under pressure. So we have to listen to this. So one of the most helpful things we can do is to use a simple nervous system regulation tool throughout the day. It's not complicated, it's just small practical things. Just using this one thing is really helpful, and it's called the somatic hug. So the somatic hug. So this is where you cross your arms over your chest and just put one arm under your ulster here, and put one arm across here, and just apply a little bit of gentle pressure and give yourself a hug. Just slowly take one breath in and one breath out. You can rub your arm up and down. So just notice how calming that is. Just notice how relaxed that is. That's you going into your parasympathetic nervous system. This is actually a somatic exercise. It's to slow everything down. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling tense, or you're feeling stiff or uptight, so just take a little second to pause, breathe, and give yourself a somatic hug. So these are really good reset tools, and sometimes overwhelm is not about the workload. Sometimes it's actually about a lack of the right type of rest. So what I'm going to talk to you now about are some of the different types of rest. We often think rest means sleep, but there are many different types of rest that can affect our overwhelm. Sometimes you do need physical rest, you need sleep, you perhaps need to stretch, get up, move around a bit, or just generally slow down or sit down or just stopping. So that's the physical rest. But sometimes you actually need mental rest. You need to walk away. You need to make fewer decisions and not think about problem solving all the time. Move away from the screen and just get more space so that you can get that mental rest. Sometimes you need emotional rest, and that's space where you don't have to hold it together all the time. You don't have to perform. You don't have to support everybody else or be the strong one. You actually can walk away and not hold everybody else's stuff, including your own. And sometimes you need sensory rest. That's another one. Less noise, less light from the office, the computer screen, your phone. Just generally less sensory input. And the last one I'm talking about today is sometimes you just need social rest, and that's time away from people, time away from demands, conversations, networking, pleasing others, and responding and being available. So you need to get away from all these social activities. So looking at all these different types of rest, there's more than one rest. So part of recognising overwhelm and moving into control is actually asking yourself, what kind of rest is missing for me right now? What one from the previous ones I've just spoken about? Because once you know that, you can respond more accurately. So another useful tool that I would like to talk about with you today is control the controllables. So overwhelm gets worse when we pour our energy into what we actually can't control, how quickly things move forward, how people respond, what other people think, when nothing goes to plan. We can't control these things, but control comes back when we actually ask ourselves, what actually is in my hands today? What can I control? What's the next useful action I can take? So what happens is the brain starts to move out of panic and then move back into agency. And I think that's the key message here. Overwhelm is not a sign that you're not good at business. It's often a sign that your brain and body just need that extra support. You need to listen to it. You need to take one of these types of rest, if not more. So if I leave you with one thought, it's this. Protecting your energy is not separate from performance, it's part of performance. Like your mind, your body and your nervous system are all part of you, and it's all part of how you lead. And the more you understand overwhelm, notice it early and respond with the right tools. Take that rest, do what you need to do. The more clearly you'll be able to think and decide things and move forward. because success is not just about how hard you can work. It's about how well you can manage your energy and your well-being while continuing to build something completely incredible. So thank you very much. So thank you for listening to my talk on Overwhelm. I have some worksheets attached to this talk. They are, what does overwhelm look like for me? My overwhelm triggers in business, and actually how do you solve that overwhelm and do something about it. So thank you very much for listening.